What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Mixtape. We're taking it back here. Maybe not Maybe not your first console, but probably your second console.
Yeah.
Was either a Super Nintendo or a Sega Genesis. So we're gonna roll with the Super this week, and we're gonna be doing a snake draft of all-time Super Nintendo games. So little background here before we get rolling. Brad and I had an uncle who liked to buy these things when they first came out, and then he would get bored and tired with them and end up giving them to me and Brad. So that's how we landed a Super Nintendo. That's how we landed our first Sony PlayStation.
Yeah.
Good looking out, Uncle Blake. So the Super Nintendo was released on August 23rd, 1991. Any guesses? I know we've played a little game before of like, the cost is correct, I believe. Any guesses on what the original Super Nintendo went for?
$400.
$199.99, right in that sweet spot there. The thing that was cool about the Super, I learned as I was looking some of this up. So you remember the regular Nintendo had a completely flat top to it?
Yeah.
So oftentimes, if kids weren't paying attention, people would set drinks on that thing, and it ruined a lot of consoles. So they designed the Super with that in mind. It has a rounded top. They called it the drink guard design. And that was to discourage people from putting cups up there.
Dare you. I would never let anyone put a drink on my Nintendo game.
Now, the Super was more popular than the Sega, just strictly going on sales. And we're going to talk about a little bit of strategy that both of these companies had when we get to one specific game. But the Super sold 49.1 million units to Sega's 30.7. Some iconic ones for both, and we'll eventually get around to a Sega. But for me, as I was going through, I remembered some of these games, but I had a pretty tight lineup. It was about 5 or 6 games that I stuck to consistently.
Yeah.
Before we get in order, you guys have anything you want to say about getting on the sticks back in the day with the old Super? I feel like this was like a middle school age
So
thing.
I was a Sega guy. That more came about because I owned the Nintendo. All my cousins had a big family, and a few of my cousins had the Super NES. We wanted to play Sega, so I can't remember. I think for Christmas maybe I got a Sega, and I never owned a Super NES, but my best friends in elementary and middle school all owned it, so I played it quite often.
We had Brennan down the road. He had the Sega. We had the Super NES.
Yeah.
Just a major jump in graphics from
gosh.
NES to SNES, and it made the game so much better.
Yeah. And they
still great soundtracks coming out from Nintendo. They still had their licensed games that you couldn't get on Sega also. But then Capcom and all them kind of shared games.
NES had a good 5-year run, around 5 years before the newer systems came out. So there was a bunch of games that were made.
Well, I want to mention something too about the Super games. I mean, this was true for regular Nintendo as well, but I felt like Brad was talking about. The graphics went up a notch. A lot of correlation, I don't want to spoil it, but between arcade games that became Super Nintendo games. They were just iconic classics. So let's get an order going here. We've got the old Yankees hat. Speaking of Yankees,
Jimmy's got a pick.
I think what is this, a 5-game streak of going last?
It might be longer than that.
I know Jimmy's a Yankees fan, but I do just want to point out the Boston Red Sox have not lost since they traded Jaylen Brown.
No,
They're
which
on
is
a heater right now.
Crazy there. I think 14 games. All right. The first pick of the 2026 Super NES draft belongs to Brad Voyevich. Congratulations.
I think I'm going to take Brent's top pick too.
Good. Second, Brent Voyevich. So I'll be going third, which is nothing new.
Well, you like that. It's the snake draft comes back around to you, so that's not a bad spot to be.
All right.
Well, Brad, what are you?
Let's get us kick-started.
In the season of home run derbies and Major League Baseball.
Of course, this is good.
Let's take it back to 1994 with an arcade-style baseball game. Ken Griffey Jr. presents Major League Baseball. This was the inaugural iconic first game in this series, but then they came out with one or two after this. I don't think I ever played the sequels.
There was no need
This
to.
game was the only game you needed. This was developed by Software Creations, published by Nintendo. It featured Ken Griffey Jr. as the only licensed player in this game.
That's all you needed.
You did have the ability, so all the other characters were fictional names. You did have the real teams. You had the real stadiums.
Real stats from the season before.
Real stats for each character. And you knew who each character was. The player development, you could tell who was
based on the stats.
So you could go in.
And a hack here. If you didn't, you got out your baseball card collection, you looked up the 93 stats, and you matched the averages and home runs. And like Brad said, you could edit. So you could go in and change. You could make it the actual team names of, we played with the Mets a lot, so your Bonillas and Strawberries and those guys.
Now, this became a fast-paced arcade-style game where in between pitches in the NES games and all, it took a while to play a full 9-inning game.
Yeah.
This thing rolled along. You had the ability to
15 minutes
rob home runs.
Yeah.
All the guys, this was like the juice era of home run derby.
Yeah.
You could play, head-to-head. You could play a full season. Mm-hmm. You could play the iconic home run derby.
The derby was the best.
Guys were hitting bombs.
You know what else was pretty sweet in this game, too? The accurate stadium representations.
Yes.
You had Wrigley Field, had the ivy on the wall. Fenway had the green monster. I mean, these were like to a T what the stadiums looked like.
Yeah, this is the SNES is where games. I mean, compared to now, obviously, but this is where games really started. The graphics kind of took off a little bit.
This part was awesome.
Go ahead. You're a real baseball fan, you didn't play with your own team in this game. You played with the Mariners every time.
Yeah.
Look, there were a couple of stacked teams. The Indians and, the developers of this game got pretty clever because even though they made fictional names, the Royals roster was all ex-presidents.
Yeah.
The Indians had actresses, Audrey Hepburn and Marilyn Monroe. Throughout the game on different teams, all of the Cheers characters were put in this game. So that's what I loved about Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega. There were these like hidden Easter eggs all throughout the game. But Jimmy's got something good. One of my favorite parts of this game.
Yeah, the post-game newspaper.
Yeah.
That was the post-game newspaper after every game, everything. Score, summary. They did like these fake headlines that were kind of funny, but that was one of the best things after the games.
Absolutely. And again, we talked about it a while back with our, regular Nintendo episode and how iconic Tecmo was. Anytime you could play a season with full stat keeping, it was awesome. You were trying to break, at the time it was Roger Maris's home run record. You were trying to hit for 400. You were trying to have your pitcher keep his ERA in the ones.
But controls were great in this game.
Fielding.
As far as fielding, hitting, you could hit it opposite direction. It depended on how you did your joystick, up, down, left, right, where you wanted to hit the ball. And then fielding as far as diving for balls, robbing home runs.
Yeah. Well, and like Brad said too, your home run hitters, they looked the part. They looked like WWE wrestlers. And then your like leadoff guys were like lean. But what was so cool is, you had some loaded lineups. The Indians had Kenny Lofton leading off, Carlos Baerga, Albert Bell on that team.
Oh, yeah.
Don't sleep on the Rockies. Dante Bichette and Larry Walker going back-to-back in that lineup.
The Braves were great in that.
Braves were loaded in that game. The Blue Jays had a good team. The Phillies had Kruk, Dalton, and Dykstra.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to have to dust this one off and get it back out here.
I saw this. I never bought it, but they tried to entice people to buy the game because they used to add in a lot of the copies a Ken Griffey Jr. Collector sports card in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, great choice, Brad. That actually was my number one. Yeah. So I got to go with my number two. We're shifting gears. We're going to stay with sports, but we're taking this one to the racetrack. Super Mario Kart.
All right.
Got to go with that as my number two. This is still one of the most playable games. It's one of the most playable games ever.
Yeah.
You had the Grand Prix. You had beginner, intermediate, and advanced with the 50cc and 100cc. And in order to get to the 150, you had to beat 100. You had battle mode in this game where you had these like three balloon-like things swinging around you, and you had to look at your opponent's screen to kind of cheat a little bit.
So much
But
fun.
hands down, the best part of this game was Rainbow Road.
Yeah.
It's the course with no barriers. You
Yeah.
got to be on it.
This game too, this set off really set the
Probably
franchise off.
a
Now,
$1 billion franchise just in the Mario
and now
Kart
the newer
games.
Mario Kart games are really based off of this game.
And
a lot of the
each
stuff.
What was cool is you had 8 total characters, but they were paired in twos, and so they had certain characteristics. For example, Koopa and Toadstool had the best handling
Traction.
around the corners. They
Yeah.
were the slowest, but they could handle the corners.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong and Bowser had the most acceleration, but it took them a while to get going. And then in the middle, you had like
They would
Yoshi
spin out
and
around the
Peach.
corners.
Yeah. So, who did you guys used to roll with typically? I mean, I mixed it up all the time. If I was trying to beat that 150, it was usually Koopa because he had such good handling.
I was
but
a Yoshi
I
guy.
liked Yoshi.
I was
Yeah.
a Yoshi guy for sure.
Yoshi was tough.
You could hop with him too.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong, they were great because you could just bully people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once you got moving with them, you weren't slowing down.
Well, you know what else was cool about this game too? You know, as you advanced, so we've got one of these setups that has a lot of the old regular and super games, and I just remember as a kid, like it took time and work to get good at the games. It wasn't like you were gonna win it right away.
No,
you had to take your lumps. And you know, in the process of taking those lumps, if you were on 100cc for the first time in Flower Cup struggling, the lightning strike was a game saver. It shrunk everybody
Yeah.
else.
You would also find, though, you know, by messing up your first couple times, shortcuts and
Yes.
stuff along the path.
Yeah, you think you would
Exactly.
go off the road
Yeah,
and
you're like, hey,
you'd
here's a
fly
shortcut.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the ghost levels always had, like, if you had the mushroom or the feather, you could ramp and like
Yeah.
cut off half the course. And
Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
driving over the question marks, by far
Yeah.
the best part of this.
And
game.
if you were playing like 2 people in that Grand Prix style, you could really screw over the opponent if you had that red turtle shell and just waited until if you
yeah.
waited until the last lap at the end, you could knock
made
them
many
out of-
enemies.
You can knock them
Right.
out of position.
This one was on my list.
That's the game that I played the most.
Yeah,
It was such a good game.
8.76 million copies sold. So 4th best-selling
Incredible.
SNES game
Incredible.
of all time.
All right, Jimbo.
All right, well, that was my number one game that I played, but I'm going to take you guys to the hockey rink here.
Yay.
All right, NHL 94. This game was incredible. It just kind of, the advancements in hockey games up until this game, this kind of took off. But, you know, you could actually control your goalies in the game. You could do one-timers, which, you know, pass the puck to your player and take the shot. You could play up to 4 players in one game, 2 players on each team if you wanted to. It was real NHL teams. They used to have the organ music in the background that would play throughout the hockey rinks. That really made it feel real. But yeah, real players, the team logos, the whole nine, the real arenas. They really sunk everything into this game, but in order to do that, they had to take away the fighting.
Yeah.
Now that was the best part of the Nintendo games, like Blaze of Steel, is that you could fight. But yeah, I get, obviously these old school games didn't have that much capacity, so they had to get rid of the fighting. But
Until another year.
I lumped like 94.
I got a different one on my list.
I lumped these together, the NHLs, because
so I picked this one because this is kind of like,
Debuted it.
yeah, this is what was the main game, and then they kind of
Great,
built off.
you could
of it.
check people, like open ice checking.
I
and
used to
crack the
play this for
glass,
hours.
You could launch people over the boards. And you guys remember, I think it was Gretzky. If he got checked hard enough, he would bleed from his head. It was like one of those
Yeah.
Easter eggs. But you also had the sweet hat trick celebration in this game.
Yes.
If your guy scored a hat trick, the fans would throw hats
Yeah.
out onto the ice.
Zamboni would come out.
Yeah. So I'll save, because I have a feeling I know what Brad's going to pick, because I've got some for the, but I kind of grouped all these sports games together. But 94 was iconic because it was the first time they had a one-timer.
Yes,
where you
that
could
was
actually,
so sick, that part. But yeah, so this is a game, like I said, we used to play for hours.
Nice.
All right, on the back end,
Don't you do it.
I don't even know what.
3 sports games so far. What a surprise.
Well, you had
It's all
Mario. Well, I guess Mario Kart is. All right, I'm going to go with another, because this is another game that I just played nonstop for hours. This is from 1991, Super Mario World.
Yeah.
Came out early on when the SNES first came out.
This may be a short draft because we're just going to be picking all of each other's.
Yeah.
Well, but so this really, obviously played off the Nintendo Super Mario games, but this introduced Yoshi here. So Mario and Luigi travel to Dinosaur Land for a vacation, but Bowser kidnaps Princess Peach. But anyway, this game, you could go, there were so many different exits and different paths that you could take that,
So
like I
many
said,
hidden paths.
yeah, so many hidden. So we'd spend hours just pulling all-nighters trying to find all these different hidden exits and everything. But yeah, Yoshi could eat the enemies, spit out the Koopa shells.
Yoshi would be different
good-
colors too, depending on which level you were on. You could
Yep.
get a red Yoshi.
Back in
blue Yoshi.
1990, good luck finding any cheat codes anywhere. You had to
yes.
figure this stuff out for yourself.
Yeah, and like you said,
There's
there was
always one
hidden,
friend that subscribed to the
Yeah,
magazine. Though. You always had that one guy who's pretty
Yes.
much got him the magazine.
but yeah, like I said, and different hidden levels as well. Like you had to find all these Easter eggs in the game.
Yeah. Good choice.
But yeah, that was the original SNES. Super
I love
Mario game.
the cape feather was added to this game. You got the feather, you could fly. Or,
Yep.
kind of glide and
Yep.
dive bomb
Yeah.
people. And this one sold over 20 million copies and is the best seller of all time.
Like I said, one of those
Yoshi,
games that
How
you
many
spend a lot of
how
time
many
playing.
Mario games? I mean, just the Mario brand alone is unreal.
Yeah.
Yoshi, one of the greatest video game characters of
Yes.
all time. He was so helpful to have in that game.
I know.
He was a necessity.
You had to have them in
was-
certain things.
He was a necessity.
Yeah, to get past certain levels.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, back to you, Brent.
I'm going to go with, both of these games were incredible arcade games, but I'm going to mix it up a little bit. We're going to go Street Fighter II Champions Edition. Again, originally an iconic arcade game. I went with the Champions Edition because they added, this one is the one that, besides your original 8 characters, you got to be Balrog, Vega, Sagat, and M.
Yeah.
Bison. You're basically in a Kumite-style karate championship.
And they're coming out with this movie soon.
Yes,
right?
sometime this fall. Looks very good. But you had to fly, so you picked your character. I was a Ryu guy. Obviously, my obsession with Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
It was tough to get away from him. But you started out, and you would fly to the home of the guy that you were fighting against. So each of these characters, you had Ken, also an American, Chun-Li, Guile, Zangief, E. Honda, Blanca, and Dalsum. Dalsum, whatever it was.
Couldn't you unlock Mike Tyson in this game?
It was Balrog. Is who
Okay.
you eventually fought. They couldn't use his name, but
Okay.
he fought out of Vegas, obviously, as
Yeah.
a boxer. The different fighters, too, when you went to their areas, the background was like their home area. So
Yeah.
Vega would climb on the
Yep.
fence. Blanca was at like a carnival-style beach in Brazil. Who did you guys tend to play with when you went with Street? And again, this was one that was huge in the. And I want to take a minute to talk about arcades. Arcades were such a part of our childhood and growing up.
I mean, birthday parties when I was in elementary school.
Burger King and arcade.
You
played
went to the
Mortal-
arcade for your birthday. Yeah.
I played Mortal Kombat every time I went to the arcade because it was one game our mom wouldn't let us get.
Yeah, I mean, this I played with Ryu and Ken.
I did like Blanca
lot
at
during
times. And then Dalsum with those arms.
Blanca had that electric shock thing that he could do.
Each fighter had a special. For Ryu, it was the Hadouken. For Guile, it was the Sonic Boom.
Yeah. Yep.
Guile is the one I liked. Yeah, you played at the Air Force Base.
The flat top.
Yeah, I mean, Street Fighter 2, this one is one of the greatest fighting games, like arcade style and SNES games.
All right, well, I'm glad you left me my number 2. I got my number 1 and 2 pick here.
you guys are going to take all mine by the time I get.
Yeah, this one I can't not go with it, but NBA Jam,
Yeah.
the original NBA Jam also, but they came out with one like immediately after Tournament Edition, which was great. Just iconic one-liners like "Boom shakalaka,"
Yep.
he's heating up, he's on fire.
He's
You
on
could-
fire.
It was a arcade style 2v2.
Street ball.
They had all the NBA licensing for this, so you got everyone's real identities, names, stats. Coming off, these are all 93, 94 rosters, so we did not have Michael Jordan on the Bulls here.
The one
But
downside of NBA Jam.
I think we had Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, B.J. Armstrong, and I think you could unlock Dennis Rodman.
That was in the
Yeah,
tournament
in the
edition.
tournament.
Yeah,
You had more
this is the
players.
original.
Now-
the tournament edition, you get to unlock
No
more players.
No fouls, no rules. You could
Street
just
ball.
check people, take the ball. Unreal alley oops in this, though.
Oh,
Your guy would sky up to the scoreboard, basically. You could break the backboard. If you make 3 3-pointers in a row, you get on fire, and then you can't miss once you're on fire.
And you don't get called for goaltending.
Yep.
This game caused a lot of fights amongst my cousins because
Someone just
you'd
gets
get
checked going
as
up
soon
for a
as you
dunk.
made one of those slams, you'd stand up and just turn to them and start talking. But
You know who was awesome to roll with in this game?
Bill Clinton.
Sean Kemp.
oh, dude,
Seattle
one of my favorite
Supersonics
players ever,
was
Sean Kemp.
tough
Yes.
to beat in this
How
one.
about this though? I guess this is all in the tournament edition though. You could unlock celebrities, musicians. You could be Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith. You could be Bill Clinton,
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton, Al Gore. All kind. You could be a couple of the mascots, the Phoenix Sun, and I think the Chicago Bulls mascot. But what an epic arcade style game.
I saw that the arcade version of this
It's a
game.
hard game too. Once you got to
Yes.
like 6 or 7 wins, the goal was to beat all 30 teams or 29. Once you got it to about 6 or 7, it started.
They
getting
didn't want you
real
to
tight.
look. Nintendo, all these old school systems did not want you
Yeah.
winning these games. But
Well, there's an interesting bias in this game. I found this out in my research. The lead programmer for this game, his name was Mark Termel, I think.
You could play as him as well.
He's a huge Pistons fan. So he programmed into the game that if you were the Bulls, Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant, you would not hit last-second shots against the Pistons. He hated the Bulls as a Pistons
That's
fan. So he
messed
programmed it into the game that, if you were tight with the Pistons as the Bulls, you weren't going to win down the stretch.
yeah, this game was awesome. This game did $1 billion in quarters nationwide, just at the arcade.
They said this game has the record somewhere for the most money an arcade is made in a single day. A single arcade somewhere in the country made something like
Yeah.
$2,200. People putting quarters in one day to play NBA Jam.
Yeah.
All right, it comes back around to me.
Yes. Is that your, yeah?
You did too?
Yeah, so my number 3 pick is going to be NHL 96. I think this is the best one of the NHL games. Even though it wasn't the first one, this one offered like much tighter skating. The one-timer mechanics were much better in this too. And I want to say like if you hit a one-timer like perfectly, it would do like a screenshot or something like that. Best part of this game, though, for me, and again, another game where fully licensed by NHL and the NHL Player Association, so you got full season stats, you got the names, the player likenesses. Fighting was back on the table in this game. And the New Jersey Devils won the Stanley Cup that year, so they were the best team on the game, which
Yeah,
is
Marty-
me and Brent's team. Marty
Brodeur.
Brodeur,
Yeah.
man.
Unstoppable.
Scott Stevens, Scott Niedermeyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, these NHL games, so like I had kind of grouped them all together, but all like any game, like each year there were additional perks and features and whatnot. And the 95 one that had just come out prior to this, so anyway, this whole NHL series was iconic because of the
Yeah.
things we've mentioned. The one-timer, you can manually control the goalie, the licensing, but 95 brought some really cool things that you didn't really have yet in sports games. It introduced player trades. So it was the first time like you could trade guys from team to team during a season,
Yeah.
kind of mess with your lineup a little bit. It had the year-end awards too, and then it also incorporated fake shots. So prior to this in hockey games, you couldn't how hockey players will fake a shot. And then also on defense, you could lay down to block shots like they try to do sometimes. So the NHL series was a great series. Brad and I spent a ton of time. And if you were on a breakaway and you hit it just right, deke right, move left, shoot, it was unstoppable. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to go. I'm really surprised there's one game that has not been picked yet, but I'm actually going to go Tecmo Super Bowl. It was like an upgrade on Tecmo Super Bowl for the regular Nintendo. I still prefer the regular. Obviously, the regular Nintendo game is iconic.
Yeah.
This game was cool though. Still kept season-long stats. It had in-game awards. So when you had 150 receiving yards, this banner would flash up on the screen when you threw for 300 yards. This one also brought in a new element and a new dynamic. It was a little tougher. You did not get the Bo Jackson style breakaway because what they did with this game is they made it, once an offensive player got the ball, they made the defense faster than him. So it was a lot harder to wiggle and zoom. It was a little more realistic.
The graphics were way superior on this game.
And it brought weather into it. So you could either have sunny weather, rainy weather, and snowy weather. And if it was wet or cold, it would affect the footing and fumbles and interceptions and sailing passes. So it still was that like flat screen, non-three-dimensional. You're going left to right, but it was a very fun game to play. And I was a sucker for any game that kept season-long stats.
I'm surprised you picked that over college football.
Yeah.
I mean they had bigger playbooks.
Well, I don't think
you change all your formations and stuff.
Yeah.
There was a lot that you do in the game.
There's still a football game that hasn't been picked, and I'm very surprised.
I know.
All right, Jimbo.
Okay, well,
We're getting pretty close to the end.
You're about to hear it soon because I don't really have much left on here. Let me see. Taken. Taken.
Yeah. That's you got to.
All right, so we'll go.
You got to.
We'll mention it. This is Madden 95. The amount of hours I spent in my next door neighbor, my buddy's house, playing this game is a lot of hours. But this is like the Madden game. This included all the NFL player licensing. So you'd actually play with real players. The rosters, you had players like Steve Young, Barry Sanders, Jerry Rice, Brett Favre. You could slide with the quarterback. You could high step into the end zone. You could stiff arm people. Different touchdown celebrations was fun to do.
Like a legit playbook, too.
Yeah, legit playbook.
You weren't limited to 3 or 4 plays.
No, and you track the season stats, and the NFL Fox theme music for football, iconic, was in the game. That was like the theme song of the game.
Best part of this was
Pow!
Madden's commentary.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, iconic voices throughout the game, but this is what set the Madden franchise off, to what it is today. But yes, another game, just hours and hours playing with
revolutionized. Yeah, another game that revolutionized video games.
Yeah.
All right, and for the next one, I'm going to go with Mortal Kombat 2, 1994. Man, this game really stepped it up. The bloodiness of this game was, my mom used to walk in, if we had the system in my house. And
we had to go down to Brennan's.
Oh, my God.
He had it on Sega, which I think on Sega was actually better.
Well, it's because of the first one, Sega allowed all the fatalities.
Yes.
Super Nintendo did not on the first game.
The fatalities.
It moved a lot of people.
Yes.
Well, not only fatalities. Remember the Babality? You could turn them into babies.
Yeah.
Animality.
Do I remember?
There was all kinds.
Sonya had the kiss of death.
Yep.
She would blow a kiss and it would incinerate and turn to fire.
Hey,
the violence
going back, you could play these characters on NBA Jam as well.
Yeah, this was a very violent game.
Yeah.
But, it had
It was like an R-rated Street Fighter.
Yes.
It took it up a notch.
Yeah. And this is the one, like we were saying, like you can only play it at certain people's houses because their parents, some parents might get angry. But
so parents frowned on people ripping each other's spines out.
But this is like a faster paced game.
Who'd you guys roll with in this one? Ooh. I liked Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
I mean, Sub-Zero was the guy that I think everyone wanted to have. Yeah. Scorpion, I think I played with later on, but I want to say Sub-Zero.
You had some good characters: Johnny Cage, Liu Kang, Raiden.
I rolled with Liu Kang because he did
I
the
hated
dragon.
Johnny Cage.
Do you remember one? Like there were 3 different bosses, but the one who I thought was like tough was the reptile. It was based like it was Sub-Zero and Scorpio. But it was like a green reptile. Yeah.
Yeah.
Liu Kang did the dragon animality, and it was, if you could nail it, man, it was the best one on there.
And this is another game that, obviously there was an arcade version, but this was looked just like the arcade version. The graphics popped, the colors were bright, and you could unlock secret fighters like Reptile and Smoke. So SNES and Sega Genesis both launched this game on the same day, on Friday, September 1994. They called it Mortal Friday, and it was a big worldwide release of this game.
Well, I think Sega actually, what helped make Sega popular besides Sonic was the fact that they didn't censor the first Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
A lot of people just bought a Sega just to be able to play Mortal Kombat uncensored back then. So
and Echo the Dolphin.
One of the most confounding games of all time.
Never made it past the introduction.
It's probably the hardest game of all time. All right, was that 2 for you, Jimmy? All right, I'm going to go with a highly underrated game that I know Brad is going to appreciate. I'm going Aladdin.
I knew Aladdin you were going to get this one.
Such a great game. Yep. You got Aladdin making his way through Agrabah, collecting turkeys to refuel and loaves of bread and throwing apples at the enemy characters. But what was cool about this game?
Very great graphics.
And the storytelling. So every 3 levels when you would advance, or we used to call them boards, you got to get to the next board. It was like a story. It was almost like Ninja Gaiden. It would explain what was going on. You didn't want to miss it.
Watching the movie.
Yeah, exactly. 2 of my favorite things from this game: the magic carpet level. Once you're in the cave, you're actually riding the magic carpet, dodging things, and then the genie levels were pretty sweet too. They were a little trippy. The genie had his tongue sticking out, and you had all these different factors.
The final battle, though,
when he turns into a snake,
and you're dodging eggs,
you gotta jump on his head off the eggs.
I don't know if I ever beat that game, actually.
The reason I liked it is
beat every game we ever played. I just watched.
That's because you never got a chance.
I just watched.
He was a good support system. He'd be a great caddy. But Aladdin actually was one of those games that you could beat. There were some games that you weren't beating. I felt like Super Mario you could beat. Aladdin was one that it was tough, but it was gettable as a middle school kid.
The thing that was great about Super Nintendo also was, you went from a Nintendo where you had to just keep your system on all the time if you want to continue a game, and it would just get hot as anything and then mess up eventually. This, you could actually save games.
How angry would you get at your mom if you came home from school and that red light wasn't on?
Man, that was brutal, trying times in gaming back during Nintendo.
All night, stay up all night, sleep for a couple hours, get up for school.
That's what original Nintendo, it just was like you're not going to sleep. That's just what's going to happen. But
just one more try. But
SNES changed that, and I've been sleeping well ever since.
All right. Anyone else have any others? I have 1 or 2 kind of to mention if you guys are out.
Did we mention NBA Live 96?
That's a good one, 95 and 96 were great.
Yeah, 95. Yeah, NBA Live 95, but NBA Live 96 came out. It was just a better game. Edition of the Raptors and Grizzlies. you could create your franchise player
Yeah.
and just make them anything that you wanted to.
And like Madden, this took it from left to right. This was an oblique, like three-dimensional
Yeah.
view.
Yup.
So kind of like Madden gave you that three dimensions.
Yeah.
NBA Live did. 95, I kind of grouped these together like I did
Yeah.
in NHL, but 95 was pretty sweet because you had a full season mode. And Rodman actually had colored hair in 95. It was kind of like a
Yeah.
perk of that game. But Jimmy's right. 96 took everything 95 did up a level. That was the game that Brad and I had, was 96 with the expansion franchises.
Yeah, there was so much you could do in the game. Like you were talking about, you could do trades in this game. You had the All-Star game, expansion draft, rookie draft,
Yeah.
multiplayer seasons, and you could unlock guys like Michael Jordan and Barkley. Due to licensing issues, they were not in the game, but once again, if you unlock them, they looked very similar, and their stats were very similar to Jordan and Barkley in those.
Yeah.
So,
Michael Gordon.
yeah.
I think we got to mention too, before we wrap it up. This one was always. You guys remember going to Walmart and they had like the testers out?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they always had Donkey Kong Country when
Yes,
Super Nintendo
yep.
first came out. That was one that similar to like a Mario style game, but it just has the donkey or junior donkey or whatever it is. But that was one that they always had that you could.
I got a lot. That's my last one on my
Go ahead.
list.
Go
but,
ahead.
Yeah, revolutionized like 3D graphics.
Yeah, and riding your bike to Walmart as a kid.
So this was a 16-bit graphic game, but they used pre-rendered 3D models.
Yeah.
So, when Donkey Kong did a forward roll, it looked like he was
Yeah.
going to come
Yep.
off the screen at you. But this game I loved because if you suck at video games like me, you could switch back and forth like on the fly from Donkey Kong to Diddy Kong.
Yeah.
If you jumped off a cliff, you could switch real quick before
Yep.
he died, and it would bring him back. So, very user friendly. You could ride animals like a rhino, a swordfish,
Yeah.
a frog.
It was a fun game. It was very colorful too.
Yeah.
Like Brad was saying, the graphics popped on this
yeah.
game.
I didn't play it a lot. I mean, I definitely played it, but it wasn't one that was in the rotation.
But
I think
it had all the Kong characters in this.
Yeah.
So like for save mode, you had one of the Grandma Kong, and then
Yeah.
you had one of the old elderly Kongs who was helping you throughout the game.
Yep.
So here's something else that we have to mention. We don't have to go down the rabbit hole too much. I have one more deep cut for Brad after I talk about this. You guys remember renting games from video stores?
Yeah.
How, you go to your Blockbuster, your local movie gallery, and if you didn't have a game or, you didn't have the access to buy a game at the time, you could rent it for the weekend. And then you want to talk about pulling all-nighters. It was like you only had 2 or 3 days with this thing.
And I realized as a young kid that if you don't just never return the game, it's only like $30.
Yeah.
So you're basically just buying the game anyway. But yeah, renting anything back in the day was awesome.
I did have. Well, are we just doing honorable mentions now, or are we still rotating
I-
through?
I'm
I'm
guess
out.
we can
I don't
mention-
have
I
any
have
more.
one more that I do want to mention.
I did. WWF Raw. Come on. You couldn't get a real wrestling game finally. You could fight outside of the ring. You could use the turnbuckles
Yeah.
and do some high flyers.
I kind of feel like Nintendo missed the ball with like a great wrestling game. Do you guys remember a great wrestling game?
I don't know if they. I think they had I think they had WWF for Nintendo.
Okay.
I'm pretty positive they had
sure.
WWF.
Yeah.
But like all other Nintendo games, it was
Yeah.
limited.
This one, though, you could, be the Undertaker. Bret the Hitman
Come off the
Hart.
top rope.
Used all their iconic moves. You
Yeah.
could pick up chairs and hit each other with them.
Yeah.
You had the Royal Rumble. You'd have 6 players in the ring at one time.
Yeah. All right, last one I got to mention. Someone bought Brad this game at one point. This is a very deep cut. You may not know this game. Brad, do you remember Mario Paint?
Yes.
It came with the mouse.
Yeah.
You had the fly swatter game. It was like the most addictive game. You
It
had
was
this like
a game
you were
for, like, a
swatting flies.
4-year-old.
Yeah. But it also, I think, was the first game you could compose music. Like you could make beats.
Mm-hmm.
It was like was a very
cool game.
interesting game.
It was for creative minds
Yes,
like myself.
yes.
Who sucked at video games. Don't forget about the Super Scope. Do you remember Super Nintendo came out with it was like a bazooka. It had a scope on it, and they had a handful of games that you played with the trigger through the Super Scope.
I don't know
We
if
had
I-
a Super Scope.
I don't know. I don't remember
That
using
thing
that.
would be sweet to use.
Yeah.
That you could play Star Fox on it.
Yeah, Star Fox was a pretty wild game too.
And you remember Batman Returns was a great graphic video
Yeah.
game with the storyline.
Yeah. All right, I think we nailed most of them. I mean, I think regular Nintendo was probably one that we played more of because of the age range and whatnot. But these were some really great games. Like I said, my rotation was tight on this. There was about 4 or 5 games. Because let's face it, if you were playing a season of Griffey, it's going to take you a minute. 162 games plus the playoffs. God forbid you miss the playoffs.
And like we were saying, once you get locked in to one of these games and you realize you could save it was like you went to school and came home the next day and immediately
peace
went
of
right
mind.
back to the game.
You were praying for a rainy day.
Yeah, just all day at school. You go, all right, now it's saved. Now I can go home and really get
I had
after
a lot
it.
of
But-
fevers.
Yeah.
The only prescription was more Ken Griffey Jr.
Yep. All right. It's always fun. Guys, if you haven't yet, follow us, subscribe, give us a like. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.